My name is Linda Wilson. I'm a former sous chef from a one-Michelin star restaurant. Now I run cooking classes from my home. Yes, now I do. Until 7 years ago, when I got married, I was standing in the kitchen from morning until late night at Jean Georges in New York. I mastered every technique from molecular gastronomy to classic French cuisine and had earned the chef's complete trust. When I left to start my own business after getting married, many people were sad to see me go. But I had a new dream. That day, I had just finished teaching a cooking class as usual. I had taught my students how to make apple tart tatin, showcasing the flavors of autumn. The aroma of caramelized apples still lingered in the classroom. I picked up a high-quality invitation that had been slipped into my door and sighed deeply. It was from my mother-in-law, Patricia Wilson, the owner of Wilson's, the most prestigious restaurant in Brookline. "Mom, is that a letter from Grandma?" asked my 7-year-old son Noah, tilting his head to look at my face. He resembles me, sensitive and kind. He loves helping with cooking, and the sight of his small hands diligently cutting vegetables reminds me of myself when I was young. That's why I've kept my distance from my mother-in-law for the past 2 years. I didn't want Noah's pure heart to be hurt. "It's an invitation to Wilson's 20th anniversary dinner," I said flatly. The invitation was embossed with gold leaf, with the date written in Patricia's perfect handwriting. The envelope was probably made of high-quality Italian handmade paper. Even that was a reflection of her taste. "What about Dad?" Noah asked. I shook my head. My husband Michael had an important presentation in Seattle this week. As vice president of a Boston IT company, he had forged his own path instead of following the family tradition of entering the culinary world. His choice to study computer science at MIT and successfully launch a startup was the right one. But his decision had deeply wounded Patricia, with her strong upper-class sensibilities. "Will we get to see Grandma?" Noah's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Indeed, visits with his grandmother had been limited lately. We hadn't even taken a family Christmas photo in the past 2 years. I looked at the invitation again. It said, "Looking forward to an intimate family gathering." But something felt off. She must have known Michael would be absent. And Patricia's handwriting seemed to have a sharpness to it beneath the usual elegance. My sister-in-law Caroline would certainly be there. Unmarried, she managed the restaurant alongside her mother. A Wellesley College graduate with excellent grades who studied culinary arts in Europe, she had always looked down on my chef background. In her eyes, restaurant apprenticeship was just entertainment for the lower classes. Patricia, who came from a working-class background and entered high society through marriage, ironically held the strongest class consciousness. Since losing her husband 20 years ago, her heart had hardened further. Maintaining the reputation of the prestigious restaurant had become her entire life. When Michael decided not to take over the restaurant, the relationship between mother and son rapidly cooled. Still, Sunday family dinners continued in a diminished fashion. But after an argument with Patricia 2 years ago, when she dismissed Noah's peanut allergy as imagination, even that tradition ended. I still can't forget her cold gaze from that day. I've recently heard rumors about succession issues for the restaurant's management. Apparently, there's subtle tension between Caroline and Patricia. And now, this sudden invitation. I looked back into my son's expectant eyes. Indeed, this might be a chance to repair family relationships. Suppressing the anxiety spreading in my chest, I smiled. "Noah, shall we go see Grandma?" Yes. My son's innocent smile temporarily diminished the sense of unease in my heart. At dusk in autumn, Wilson's was bathed in soft light. The Victorian-style building from the 1890s standing on Beacon Street seemed to exist beyond time. The brick facade featured elegant curved ironwork, and warm light spilled from the large windows. I clutched my son's small hand. "Noah, are you okay?" "Yes," he answered, but his voice carried a hint of tension. Noah tugged slightly at the collar of his navy blazer, the special outfit we bought for today. Little did I know that putting him in this outfit would become a major regret later. Opening the heavy wooden door, we were greeted by the sparkle of chandeliers. Crystals created patterns of light dancing on the white plastered ceiling. The entrance hall was filled with the scent of fresh flowers, surely dahlias and roses, Patricia's favorites. My nose also detected the aroma of cooking from deeper inside. James, the sommelier, approached us with a smile. "Welcome, Linda and Noah." Until 2 years ago, he had poured wine for us at every weekly family dinner. When our eyes met, he smiled apologetically. Did he know something? "Welcome, Linda, Noah." Turning around, I saw Patricia and Caroline standing there. Patricia had her raven hair in a perfect chignon and was wearing a Hermès tweed jacket. Next to her, Caroline was dressed in a Chanel charcoal gray dress. Both looked as if they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Good evening, Patricia," I greeted her politely. I no longer called her mother. "Grandma." Noah tried to run to her, but Patricia raised her hand slightly to stop him. "Noah, be graceful. This is a fine dining establishment." Her voice was sweet as honey, but somehow cold. Amidst the busy coming and going of servers, we were led to a private room. It was the most formal private room, called the Rose Room, with deep red wallpaper, antique silverware arranged on a sideboard, and a Louis XV-style table near the window that had been passed down from the previous generation. "Let's have some wine brought over," Caroline said. "We've opened a special 1999 Romani Conti for tonight." Once seated at the table, the servers moved smoothly into action. Amuse-bouches were arranged one after another on the white damask tablecloth, foie gras macarons, potato velouté with truffle aroma, and blinis topped with caviar. "This is quite an extravagant dinner," I said. Serving such an elaborate course seemed beyond a mere anniversary celebration. "Yes, tonight is special." Patricia raised her glass of deep red wine. "Let's make a toast to the future of our family." I still didn't understand the meaning hidden behind those words. Noah was quietly drinking orange juice. A special children's course was arranged before him. But I was concerned about how Patricia's gaze would occasionally fix sharply on her grandson. "Linda, how is your cooking school going?" Caroline suddenly asked. "I've been hearing about its reputation lately." I sensed something strange in her tone. Caroline had never shown interest in my work before. "Yes, it's going well," I answered cautiously. "I plan to open a second classroom next month." Patricia raised her eyebrows. How ambitious. It was then that I first noticed the hostility in her eyes. This was no family anniversary, it was an interrogation. "This restaurant is the pride of the Wilson family," Patricia suddenly changed her tone. "Though someone from the lower classes like you wouldn't understand." The air in the room froze. Noah looked at me anxiously. Caroline sipped her wine and smiled maliciously. "We'll enjoy a refined dinner." "You two should," Well, wait in a more suitable place. What do you mean? My voice trembled. Let me show you the kitchen. Patricia stood up. A place befitting your status. At that moment, I tried to stand up and take my son's hand. But Caroline was already standing behind Noah. Noah, come with Grandma. Caroline's voice was sweet, but her movements were quick. Mom! Noah cried out. We were led, half forcibly, to the kitchen. Opening the large door with gleaming brass handles revealed a kitchen equipped with the latest facilities. A place that would normally excite me now looked like a chamber of horrors. Stainless steel counters were arranged neatly, with ovens and stoves standing quietly. The kitchen, which should have been bustling, was eerily silent. Oh, there's another door here, Patricia said meaningfully. It was the door to a large freezer. I instantly realized her intention. Stop! But my cry came too late. Noah and I were pushed into the freezer, and the heavy door slammed shut with a loud bang. In the darkness, Noah's small body was trembling. From outside, I could hear Patricia's loud laughter. Now, let's enjoy our refined dinner. That voice grew distant. We were left in the cold darkness. My body began to shake. But now was not the time to give in to fear. Noah, are you okay? I embraced my son in the darkness. His small body was trembling. I'm cold. Mom, I'm scared. It's okay. Mom will protect you. I held my son tightly. Noah, would you like to hear about when Mom was a chef? My apprenticeship at Jean Georges. The pride of being present when the restaurant went from 2 stars to 3. And above all, my experience managing ingredients in extreme cold. Now, that experience was becoming our lifeline. First, let's try not to move, I whispered to my son. So we don't lose body heat. I began to feel around to check our surroundings. I understood the structure of commercial freezers. There should be an emergency lever installed. But until I found it, we needed to prepare to survive. Noah, listen carefully to Mom. We're going to make a shelter. My eyes were adjusting to the darkness. I could see a pile of cardboard boxes, packaging used for high-end ingredients like foie gras, truffles, and caviar. Those boxes would save our lives. Noah, please carry the boxes as I tell you. Working with my small son, we began to build a makeshift shelter with cardboard. I dismantled boxes and layered them 2-3 times thick. The methods for keeping ingredients warm that I had learned as a chef were now being used to save human lives. This will block the wind. We crawled into the improvised shelter and wrapped ourselves in commercial plastic wrap. Tools that were commonplace in a professional kitchen now served as blankets. We huddled together, trying to move as little as possible. Time passed. Mom, I'm thirsty. Hydration was important. But drinking frozen water directly would be dangerous. Instead, I found a box of high-end chocolates nearby by feeling around. Let's lick these little by little. Melt them with your body heat. The aroma of cocoa brought a slight comfort to our hearts. In the shelter, I kept talking to my son. Happy memories, future dreams, and above all, the importance of staying alive. We couldn't fall asleep. We had to stay conscious. Noah, keep your eyes open. Let's play a quiz game. Quizzes about cooking. Names of ingredients, cooking methods, world cuisines. stimulating my son's curiosity while maintaining consciousness. The temporary temperature rise for defrosting provided a brief respite. But it was short-lived. "Mom, my fingers hurt." The beginning of frostbite. I put my son's hands under my armpits and desperately tried to warm them. With fatigue and cold, my thinking was becoming dull. But I couldn't give up. I had to find the emergency lever. "Noah, Mom's going to move a little. You wait here." Crawling out of the shelter, I began exploring along the walls. The coldness of the metal cut into my bare fingers. But somewhere here. Finally, my fingertips felt something. A thin metal rod. This must be it. The emergency lever. I found it. But my frozen fingers wouldn't move freely. The lever was stiff and wouldn't budge. "Noah, Mom needs your help." My son's hands, crawling out of the shelter, looked surprisingly small. But they were still warm. "Hold this. Pull it together with Mom." Together, we desperately pulled the lever. We pulled with all our might once more. And the door moved inward. Light streamed in. We did it. We crawled out of the freezer. My legs were unsteady. But I had to stand up. I rose on trembling legs and firmly grasped my son's hand. We passed through the kitchen, heading for the dining room. There were guests filling the seats. And Patricia and Caroline elegantly sipping wine. "Everyone, please listen." My voice echoed in the suddenly silent restaurant. Raising my discolored, frost-bitten hand, I began to tell the truth in a trembling voice. The blood drained from Patricia's face. Caroline's wine glass fell to the floor. As murmurs spread among the guests, we stood firm. We had survived. The emergency ward at Massachusetts General Hospital welcomed us warmly. The doctors immediately began treatment. Frostbite, hypothermia, dehydration. Diagnoses came one after another. "Linda." I opened my eyes to the voice of my husband rushing into the hospital room. Michael's face, having returned urgently from Seattle, was distorted with anger and sadness. "Where's Noah?" "In the pediatric ward next door. He's stable." My husband took my hand and for the first time, shed tears. "Mother. I can't believe Mother would do something like this." At that moment, the TV in the hospital room began broadcasting breaking news. A shocking imprisonment incident at a prestigious Brookline restaurant. Police are revealing details about the arrest of the owner and co-manager. The screen showed the exterior of Wilson's and images of Patricia and Caroline in handcuffs. It was the moment when the glamorous mask of high society was torn away in an instant. Hours later, a detective visited the hospital room. "We've checked the security camera footage," the detective said in a gruff voice. "It's clear this was a premeditated crime. The security cameras had recorded everything." Patricia and her daughter checking the emergency lever of the freezer beforehand. Instructions to send the kitchen staff home early. And the moment they imprisoned us. Testimonies are coming in from restaurant employees as well. The detective opened a thick file. It contained truths that had been hidden until now. Harassment of former employees. Unjust dismissals. And the most shocking fact. Your son's allergic reaction 2 years ago. That was no accident. A chill ran down my spine. Noah's attack that day. Patricia had known. She had known about the peanut allergy and deliberately. During questioning, Caroline confessed, the detective continued. There was conflict with Mrs. Patricia over the succession of management rights. The truth was gradually becoming clear. Patricia had no intention of letting Caroline inherit the restaurant. She believed that Michael's son, Noah, was the rightful successor. But the existence of me, an unsuitable mother, was interfering with her perfect plan. That night, Michael spent a long time in the hospital room. Mother was too obsessed with perfection, he said in a tired voice. Family tradition, social status, the restaurant's reputation. She became trapped by these things and lost her heart as a human being. The next day, social media was abuzz with the incident. The dark side of the established restaurant was being revealed one after another. A week later, a preliminary hearing began at the Suffolk County Courthouse. Opening the heavy wooden doors, we were enveloped by the cool air. A court artist was busily moving her pencil. Local media reporters sat in the gallery. And there were former regular customers. Their eyes showed surprise and disappointment. Patricia appeared dressed in a brand-name suit. But her appearance had lost its former dignity. Next to her, Caroline kept her head down. Defendant, Patricia Wilson, the judge's voice resonated. You are charged with first-degree imprisonment and aggravated charges of intentional harm to a minor. When I took the witness stand, I desperately tried to control my trembling voice. I had to calmly describe the terror of that time. My son still has nightmares, I testified. He's afraid of the dark and startles at the sound of refrigerators. You stole a 7-year-old child's right to sleep peacefully. The expressions of the jurors changed. Especially the older women's eyes were burning with anger. The defense tried to emphasize Patricia's social contributions. Her achievements in the restaurant industry, donations to charity, reputation in the community. However, the prosecution was relentless. The defendant has used her social status to commit various abuses over many years, the prosecutor said forcefully. This incident is just the tip of the iceberg. Evidence photos were presented one after another. Maya and Noah's frostbite. Security camera footage. And most decisively, messages found on Patricia's smartphone. It's a perfect plan. No one will suspect anything. It should be treated as an accident. The jury's deliberation ended surprisingly quickly. We present our verdict for defendants Patricia Wilson and Caroline Wilson. The courtroom fell silent. Patricia Wilson, for first-degree imprisonment and intentional harm to a minor, 3 years imprisonment. Caroline Wilson, for complicity, 2 years imprisonment. When the sentence was handed down, I squeezed Michael's hand tightly. It was over. But the judge added more. I also order both defendants to be permanently banned from the food and beverage industry. The business license for the restaurant, Wilson's, is immediately revoked, and ownership rights will be transferred to Mr. Michael Wilson. As we left the courtroom, Patricia turned toward us. In her eyes, for the first time, there was a hint of regret. Outside, the autumn sunlight was dazzling. A week in the hospital, followed by 3 weeks of legal proceedings. The season had deepened, and the trees were ablaze with autumn colors. Mom, I'm hungry, Noah whispered softly. I hugged my son. Yes. Let's make a special dinner today. All of us together. On the way home, Michael said quietly, I want you to help me decide what to do with the restaurant. I looked up at the sky. Through a break in the clouds, a ray of hope was shining through. Justice had prevailed, and the truth had been revealed. But this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of creating a new Wilsons together as a family. 1 year later in autumn, Noah by Wilsons, which had just reopened after renovation, was wrapped in the soft light of dusk. I stood in the new kitchen, absorbed in the final touches. A hint of truffle aroma on the sauce cotter vents. This was the highlight of the new menu, which pursued simple but deep flavors. "Linda, customers are already starting to line up," informed Maria, the sous chef. She was a skilled chef who had been fired from the former Wilsons. After the truth came to light, she was the first person I approached. "Thank you. Tonight is a special night." The restaurant's renovation was a symbol of our new beginning. While preserving the stately Victorian exterior, the interior was bright and open. White walls with large windows, and warm wooden furniture. Above all, making the kitchen walls glass meant the cooking process was visible from the dining area. Nothing to hide, this was our new philosophy. "Mom." Turning to the voice, I saw Noah running toward me in his school uniform. He had stopped by on his way home from school today. "Welcome back. How was your math test?" "Perfect score." My heart warmed at my son's smile. After that incident, Noah's recovery was surprisingly fast. Twice weekly counseling, and above all, valuing time spent as a family. Now, he no longer fears the sound of refrigerators. "Then let's make a celebration dessert." The Noah from before might have been afraid to enter the kitchen. But not now. My son stands next to me, his eyes shining. "Are we making apple tart tatin today?" "Yes. I think Grandma will be happy too. We've been visiting Patricia. Participating in a prison rehabilitation program, she has been changing little by little. During our first visits, she couldn't speak, but now she listens to Noah's school stories and sometimes sheds tears. "Linda." Turning around, I saw Michael standing there. "It seems he left work early today. The restaurant association called," he announced happily. "We've been selected as a finalist for this year's Best New Restaurant Award." A small cheer rose from the staff. "Dad, that's amazing." Noah jumped up. I smiled silently. This year has truly been a time of transformation for our family. Caroline moved to California immediately after her release. Having gone through the rehabilitation program, she now works for a nonprofit organization. I quietly support her as she acknowledges her mistakes and begins a new life. At the final staff meeting before opening, I stood before the assembled team. Tonight is a special night. A year ago, this restaurant was the scene of a tragic incident. But now, we have created a new Wilsons. This is a place filled with love and hope. And above all, a place that pursues authentic flavors. The staff's eyes gleamed with pride. Many of them had been treated unfairly under the previous management. But now, they are filled with confidence. At 6 p.m., we welcomed our opening time. Our first customers were unexpected, the Thompson couple, regular customers who had been the first to call the police during that incident. "Welcome back," I greeted them sincerely. "We're home," Mrs. Thompson said, tearing up. True warmth has returned to this restaurant. Those words warmed my heart. The dinner service progressed smoothly. The new menu was well received. Especially my new creation, maple glazed duck confit, which was praised in the Boston Globe's review. Late at night, after closing. In the cleaned kitchen, I was alone checking the prep list for tomorrow. "Mom, shall we go home now?" Noah peeked in. Michael seemed to have finished his paperwork too. "Ah, yes." Stepping outside, the autumn night sky was brilliant with stars. The three of us walked with shoulders touching. "Hey, next Sunday, Grandma will be released, right?" Noah said. "Yes. Can Grandma come to our house?" Michael and I looked at each other. "Of course," I answered. "Let's create new memories together." The cold autumn wind caressed my cheeks. But my heart was warm. This year, we've learned a lot. The danger of seeking too much perfection. The importance of forgiveness. And above all, what true family bonds mean. The restaurant sign swayed slightly in the night breeze. Noah by Wilson's. This name contains our wish to accept the past and walk toward the future. And above all, to pass on the true meaning of family tradition to the next generation. It's the taste of love and forgiveness. Creating a place where everyone can truly say, "I'm home." Our new story has just begun. But now, we're taking steady steps. Under the starry sky, our steps hurrying home were very light.